Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Steffy asks Liam to take full custody in order to prevent Beth from becoming hopeless. According to teasers on The Bold and the Beautiful, Steffy Forrester Finnegan is hopeful that Forrester Creations will be reclaimed. She also asserts repeatedly, though, that Hope Logan is identical to her mother, Brooke Logan. With all of her free time, Steffy might choose to go after Hope directly. In order to prevent Beth Spencer from becoming her mother, I could see Steffy press Liam Spencer to assume full custody. Let's investigate this idea as you continue reading. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Hope Logan's inauthentic win. According to B&B spoilers, Forrester Creations has been taken over by Hope and Carter Walton. Carter is the fall guy because his name appears on the records, even though Harder is managing the business together. Spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, will Steffy's insistence that Liam have full custody prevent Beth from becoming hopeless? Carter threw a lot of money and resources at Hope's fashion line and gave it back to her. Hope's mother has also been promoted to CEO. Additionally, Steffy, Ridge Forrester, and Eric Forrester, played by John McCook, all declined to subordinate themselves to Carter and Hope. Even if Hope believes she is winning, things could go wrong very fast. Spoilers for B&B, recurring statements. Steffy is constantly saying that Hope is just like her mother. At one time, Steffy and Taylor Hayes both expressed their belief that Hope had decent values. But based on Hope's behavior over the past year, Steffy and Taylor believe she is just like Brooke. Taylor told Steffy that Hope naturally became Brooke because it was how she was influenced as a child. Lee Finnegan's remarks regarding Luna and Penelope Poppy Nozawa sound a lot like that. Perhaps there's a reason this keeps coming up in relation to Steffy and Taylor. Spoilers for Steffy Forrester Finnegan's personal attack on The Bold and the Beautiful. According to spoilers on The Bold and the Beautiful, Steffy is currently unemployed. Steffy has been keeping herself occupied by caring for her kids and helping Ridge and Taylor. But that still gives Steffy plenty of time to plot. Even though Steffy is currently helpless in regards to Forrester Creations, you can bet that she will want to retaliate against Hope in some way. Saving Beth Spencer, B&B spoilers. Hope loves her kids more than everything, and Steffy is aware of this. Hope was already devastated by Steffy's decision to have Thomas Forrester depart the nation. Steffy ensured that Thomas departed with Douglas Forrester, his son. Could Steffy use Beth to target Hope once more? Steffy might advise Liam to file a lawsuit to get full custody of Beth. Steffy may argue that Liam must take this action to prevent Beth from becoming Hope and Brooke. Even though Liam has always harbored feelings for Hope, is it possible that Steffy will ultimately win out? Will suspects Remy, Electra flees, and Bill wants to hear Luna's sinister story. According to Monday, December 30th spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Remy Price will demonstrate that he is genuinely insane as he escalates his stalking. What will Electra Forrester do now that she's stuck at Remy's apartment? Electra might come to the realization that she needs to make a change and even pretend to be on Remy's side. Electra may attempt to convince Remy that they still have a future together. If Electra is able to let Remy down long enough to escape, that might provide her an advantage. In either event, Electra will ultimately escape Remy's hideout, but it won't be fair. Electra will have to hide while Remy searches for his passion since he will follow her to what looks to be a storage cellar. Will Spencer of Forrester Creations will describe how Katie Logan treated Electra unfairly, firing her for using phony images. Will might point out several imperfections in the image to support his allegations, but Katie might first be dubious about the whole deepfake thing. Naturally, Ivy Forrester will be present to verify that Electra has previously dealt with intensely phony drama. Ivy would say that it's happening again because someone targeted Electra with fake salacious photographs before she even arrived in Los Angeles. Will might blame Remy directly when Katie questions who would harass Electra in this way. It could not be long before Will searches for Remy in order to confront him. But in the end, Electra might ruin Will's intentions by sending him an SOS and alerting him to the danger she's in. Luna Nozawa will have to deal with Bill Spencer's pressure in the interim. Even though Luna is begging Bill for aid and a way out, he won't give in until she tells him the truth about her heinous deeds. Bill will advocate for the dark reality of Paul Hollister and Tom Starr's tragic deaths. Bill might encourage Luna to come honest about her deranged thinking, since it sounds like he won't accept her temporary insanity defense. Luna will find it difficult to be honest without totally alienating Bill from the possibility of assisting her. However, Luna might play this perfectly because Bill will offer her some guidelines later in the week of December 30th to January 3rd. Our B&B forecasts suggest that Bill will return and might even be more inclined to save Luna even if he deserts her. According to spoilers for The Bold and the Beautiful, Bill will become embroiled in a lot of trouble, so keep checking back for any updates on any significant Luna news. As Remy entered the spotlight, a picture of self-assurance and unwavering resolve, the grandeur of the occasion was not lost on anyone. Although the world had previously witnessed glimmers of his guile, he made no space for doubt tonight. Remy displayed his entire personality in a brilliant demonstration of cunning, strategy, and unadulterated charm. He was a skilled manipulator, a tenacious enemy, and a guy whose goals had no boundaries. This dramatic revelation took place in a setting as carefully constructed as the character Remy had developed. The occasion, a gala honoring the union of two formidable organizations, provided the ideal backdrop. Glistening chandeliers illuminated a sea of well-dressed guests, their chatter and laughing serving as a background for the drama that was developing. Remy had meticulously prepared every aspect, guaranteeing that everyone would be watching him when the moment arrived. Among the crowd, Elektra was sensitive to her instincts. Even though she had always known that Remy was more complex than he appeared, she was still unable to foresee the sheer boldness of his scheme. Subtle indications of Remy's orchestration emerged throughout the evening. The room's key performers moved in perfect harmony with his design, perhaps under the guidance of an invisible hand. As she watched, Elektra felt a mix of adoration and uneasiness. A profound silence suddenly descended upon the room as the moment finally came. Standing in the middle of the opulent staircase, Remy held up a glass with a pleasant yet calculating smile. The room erupted in applause as he spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice warm but forceful, "tonight we celebrate not just a union of power but the culmination of vision, ambition, and unwavering resolve." It was clear to those who knew Remy well that this was no ordinary speech. Remy's tone changed as he went on, growing more serious and determined. He talked on overcoming obstacles, forming partnerships, and making sacrifices. He looked around the room and remarked, "The road to greatness is rarely free. But true character is revealed in those moments of sacrifice." His eyes had a piercing quality that made the audience take notice. He was making a statement, not just talking in general terms. As Elektra tried to piece together what he had said, her heart raced. Remy was exposing his worldview, a doctrine based on dominance and control, in addition to his accomplishments. In his broad scheme, every choice he had taken and every connection he had built had been premeditated. He was declaring his win tonight. The manipulation that ensued was a master class. Remy started identifying people in the crowd and complimenting their contributions while quietly claiming control over them. He gave one person a heartfelt recommendation, reminding them of the chances he had made available. To another, he offered thanks with a hint of caution. Every encounter was a thoughtfully positioned component in the complex picture of his power. Then the unexpected turn of events occurred. Remy flashed out a stack of papers, their contents splashed onto a huge screen behind him. The records described a network of alliances, treacheries, and secrets that had allowed him to increase his influence. Rivals were uncovered, alliances were revealed, and names were given. When the audience discovered how far Remy could reach, they gasped. In addition to outwitting his rivals, he had also redirected their own behavior against them. Elektra's mind was racing as she watched in startled stillness. Although she had always had a sneaking suspicion that Remy was up to something more, this was completely unexpected. He was creating a masterwork of control and planning, not merely showing his true colors. However, Elektra was unable to overlook the darker overtones despite the display's magnificence. Even while Remy's acts were unquestionably spectacular, they came at a cost, and those who had trusted him paid that price. As Remy wrapped up his presentation, the room was alive with surprise and conjecture. His smile remained unwavering as he raised his drink again. "To success," he murmured, his tone brimming with determination. The audience's ovation was tentative at first but became louder as they took in the enormity of what they had seen. "And to the courage it takes to achieve it." All of them acknowledged that they were in the presence of a man who had changed their reality, but some clapped out of fear and others out of true admiration. The fallout from Remy's admission started to surface as the evening went on. Some were eager to associate themselves with his vision and sought him out. Others retreated, fearing they might be his next victim. But Electra stayed on the sidelines, her mind a tornado of feelings. She couldn't ignore the ethical gap that Remy's method revealed, but she also couldn't dispute its genius. Even while they were gorgeous, his genuine colors had a hint of evil. Electra walked up to Remy in silence, her face reserved. With a deliberately bland tone, she remarked, "That was quite a performance." With his smile as charming as ever, Remy turned to face her. "A necessary one," he said, looking into her eyes. "Electra, greatness demands courage. You must realize that." Electra looked into his eyes, her own determination strengthening. "It's one thing to be bold," she said. "But at what price?" Remy's smile wavered for a second before returning with his typical assurance. "Progress always comes at a high cost," he said in a condescending tone. "But the winners are remembered by history." That was the end of their chat, but Electra continued to think about it long after the evening was over. Even though Remy's true colors were magnificent, they served as a sobering reminder of the extent to which desire may push a person. As she walked out of the event, Electra couldn't help but worry if Remy's genius would end up being his downfall or his savior. The consequences of Remy's disclosure kept reverberating through the political establishment in the days that followed. Some wanted to oppose him, and their resistance was motivated by feelings of betrayal. Others strengthened their loyalty after realizing that siding with Remy was their greatest option for surviving. Remy remained unfazed by it all, his self-assurance a source of both respect and animosity. But Electra was at a turning point in her life. She was compelled to examine her own views on morality and power as a result of Remy's performance. Although she couldn't deny the attraction of his vision, she also couldn't ignore the casualties it caused. Electra was convinced of one thing as she planned her next move: Remy's actual nature had altered the game, and there was no turning back. The novel Daphne Rose Brings Trouble, Fatal Confessions, Electra's hero explores family dynamics, personal hardships, and the range of emotions that arise when negotiating one's identity, relationships, and past baggage. The story, which is full of drama and psychological depth, tells a gripping story of the protagonist's tumultuous journey through a world full of betrayals, secrets, and great inner strife. Fundamentally, the piece delves into the inner workings of the human psyche, emphasizing themes like remorse, redemption, and the yearning to escape the bonds of one's past. The reader is drawn into a story that alternates between the inner turmoil of Daphne Rose's head and the external chaos of her surroundings through the figure of Daphne Rose. Daphne Rose does not fit the mold of a typical heroine. Her life is characterized by a string of regrettable incidents that seem to follow her everywhere she goes and are more concerning than the previous. These struggles, which frequently seem like a curse or an uncontrollable force, mold her into a character characterized by intense internal turmoil and form her story. Daphne's life appears to have been influenced by factors beyond her control from the start. She struggles with emotions of remorse and inadequacy while continuously facing her own and other people's errors in an attempt to find a way to be saved. As a result, the narrative focuses on the inside journey towards self-acceptance and knowledge rather than just an external quest. The story revolves around the idea of fatal confessions. For the personalities concerned, these confessions serve as a tool for self-liberation rather than just disclosing facts to others. For Daphne, admitting her shortcomings, her ambitions, and her difficulties is a means of letting go of the burdens of her past. The characters are given the opportunity to let go of their emotional burdens through these confessions, which take on a nearly therapeutic effect. The truth isn't always freeing, though, as is the case with many admissions. The story's confessions frequently cause more problems than they solve. The characters expose themselves to additional harm by disclosing the hidden truths, demonstrating the vulnerability of their attempts at atonement. Another important element of the narrative is the relationship between Daphne and her family. In-depth discussion is given to how family shapes a character's identity, with Daphne's connection with her family being tense. Her family relationships are characterized by both love and treachery because their shared secrets only serve to widen the gap between them. Daphne's shame and remorse are not unique to her, they are closely tied to others around her. This is especially seen in her connection with Electra, her mother, a figure whose influence can be both nourishing and harmful. Due of her own shortcomings, Electra's role as Daphne's hero is problematic. Even while Electra tries to be a positive influence in Daphne's life, her interactions with her daughter are shaped by her own challenges and errors. Electra's attempts to be the protagonist of Daphne's story frequently fail because she is unable to fully comprehend and assist Daphne because of her own incapacity to deal with her own past. The idea of Electra's hero is interwoven with cultural and psychological allusions. Electra is a character in classical Greek mythology who is characterized by intense emotional turmoil and a desire for vengeance, themes that are central to the story. As she tries to be the strong role model for her daughter while also bearing the burden of her own unresolved history, Electra in Daphne Rose's story represents both the tragic and the heroic. Much of the story's emotional turmoil is driven by the tension that exists between Electra's personal faults and her desire to protect Daphne. Because Electra is a truly human character whose actions and decisions are impacted by her own flaws and problems, her character's intricate interaction between heroism and vulnerability challenges conventional ideas of what it is to be a hero. Daphne's relationship with her mother, however, also speaks to the larger social problem of generational trauma. It can be challenging to break the cycle of emotional suffering caused by the mistakes and suffering of the past being passed down from one generation to the next. As she works through her feelings of shame and guilt and tries to remake herself outside the shadow of her family's past, Daphne's attempts to break away from this cycle of agony are at the heart of the story. Daphne's journey is replete with disappointments, emotional breakdowns, and times of extreme vulnerability, illustrating how difficult it is to break free from these generational habits. But Daphne's tale is not all about hardship and failure. It is also about the possibility of development, recovery, and transformation. The story implies that Daphne has the ability to overcome her situation even in the face of the darkness that frequently envelopes her. Her challenges involve more than just bearing the burden of her past, they also involve finding the fortitude to overcome it. The story's recurring theme is redemption, as Daphne tries to make peace with her past and present while forging a future free from her faults. As she gains the ability to take charge of her own story and make decisions that will affect her future, her path is one of self-empowerment. The narrative also explores the psychological effects of atonement and guilt. Daphne is a figure plagued by the regrets of both her own and those around her. She always struggles between wanting to make amends for her past and believing that she will never be able to find forgiveness. She is such an interesting and sympathetic character because of this internal conflict. She feels human because of her imperfections, fears, and guilt, but she also shows that she can overcome her situation by having strong and enlightening moments. Instead of providing simple answers to Daphne's issues, the story offers an honest and unvarnished examination of the difficulties involved in personal development and change. The story also heavily relies on the larger social background. The protagonist's choices and actions are influenced by societal expectations and pressures. As she attempts to manage her own needs, wants, and sense of self, Daphne in particular feels the weight of these outside influences. As Daphne struggles with the need to be herself while also trying to live up to the expectations of those around her, the pressures from society to fit in and fulfill particular standards add another level of conflict. This outside pressure acts as a reminder that the individual's problems are impacted by broader societal and cultural factors in addition to being personal. To sum up, Daphne Rose brings trouble, fatal confessions. Electra's hero is a compelling and intense story that examines the nuanced connections between identity, guilt, and atonement. The narrative explores the inner workings of the human psyche through the figure of Daphne Rose, exposing the deep challenges that shape an individual's existence. The novel is a profoundly poignant examination of the human condition because of its major themes of confession, familial strife, and the pursuit of personal salvation. The story provides a moving meditation on the difficulties of letting go of the past, figuring out one's own path, and coming to terms with oneself through its likable characters and complex emotional environment. Daphne's journey serves as a reminder that there is always hope for improvement, development, and healing even in the face of extreme tragedy. The story of Electra's life at risk, Will Plea's hero transports the reader on an intense and emotional journey that combines bravery, selflessness, and the frailty of interpersonal relationships. The narrative centers on Will, a character who unexpectedly emerges as the hero in Electra's battle, and Electra, a lady whose life is turned upside down by unanticipated events. The impending threat to Electra's life and Will's battle to overcome his own limits in order to save her form the core of the story. Fundamentally, the story examines themes of bravery, selflessness, development, and the conflict between obligation and desire. While Will's transformation into a hero questions accepted ideas of what it is to be brave and selfless, the story's examination of Electra's precarious circumstances tests not only her ability to survive but also her relationships and inner strength. Electra's persona is characterized by both fragility and resilience. Up until now, a string of incidents had molded her life and left her emotionally damaged. Despite the challenges she has faced, she is a lady who has made a concerted effort to keep control of her life. Her typical coping mechanisms are tested, though, when an unexpected and potentially fatal catastrophe occurs. She is in both internal and external peril. On the one hand, she is immediately in danger due to physical threats to her life. On the other hand, Electra is forced to face her darkest fears and unresolved emotions due to the psychological toll of approaching mortality. As Electra struggles with the uncertainty of her fate and the significant effects of her circumstances on everyone around her, her emotional journey becomes just as significant throughout the narrative as her physical survival. The stakes are enormous, and she is fighting not just to survive but also to find purpose and closure in the face of impending peril. Will, a major character in the story, is the unanticipated protagonist in this developing drama. Will does not appear to be someone who is typically viewed as a hero. He is a regular person with his own imperfections, uncertainties, and fears. But Will surprises himself and everyone around him by stepping up to the plate when Electra's life is in jeopardy. He undergoes a process of self-discovery throughout the narrative. He is initially uncertain about how to respond to the seriousness of the circumstance. The threat Electra confronts overwhelms him, and he isn't sure if he has the bravery or strength to change anything. But as the narrative goes on, Will is compelled to face his own shortcomings and make choices that will either save Electra or bring about her demise. His acts, which at first glance can appear to be hasty attempts to solve an issue, turn out to be a courageous and personal development journey. By skillfully contrasting Will's development into a hero with Electra's frailty, the story highlights the importance of interpersonal relationships during trying times. At first, Electra had to deal with her struggle mostly by herself. Her circumstances compel her to examine her life and face the psychological and emotional weight she has carried for many years. Will, on the other hand, not only saves her but also provides her with emotional support as he gets more deeply involved in her struggle for survival. The two characters' relationship, which develops from a simple acquaintance to something deeper, lies at the heart of the story. Will's development as a hero is entwined with his increasing comprehension of Electra's complexity, and they both gain important insights into the nature of human courage, love, and sacrifice as a result of their relationship. Grand, all-encompassing acts of valor are not what constitute heroism in Electra's life at risk, Will Plea's hero. Instead, the narrative presents heroism as something more complex and relatable. Even if Will doesn't always act perfectly, his actions are motivated by a strong feeling of obligation and love for Electra. Even if he doesn't always make the best choices, he is committed to doing everything it takes to keep her safe. By demonstrating that genuine heroism frequently results from weak, imperfect people who are only trying their hardest in a dire circumstance, the story subverts conventional heroic clichés. Will is shown as a hero who is fundamentally human because of his readiness to put Electra's safety ahead of his own and his emotional openness throughout the narrative. His battle to overcome his self-doubt and act is a representation of the complexity of heroism and gives the character a depth that goes beyond the stereotypical notion of a knight in shining armor. The threat Electra faces increases as the narrative goes on. The external threat intensifies, and she starts to run out of time to survive. Will is compelled to make progressively tough choices, even endangering his own health in an effort to save her. These turning points are essential to his character development because they make him face his worst uncertainties and anxieties. As Will gets increasingly involved in Elektra's potentially fatal situation, the strain increases and the conflict between his desire to keep her safe and his mounting fear of failing is evident. The reader's interest in the conclusion is increased by these emotional stakes, which also create a compelling mood throughout the narrative. Equally important to the story is Elektra's emotional journey. Elektra is learning to trust people and accept assistance, while Will is learning to be a hero. She refuses to completely rely on others and attempts to handle the threat to her life on her own for a large portion of the narrative. She has been defined by her independence and self-sufficiency, but the danger she encounters makes her face the fact that she can't always handle things alone. Elektra learns from Will's actions that asking for assistance and letting others shoulder part of her responsibilities is a show of strength rather than weakness. This insight is essential to both her own development and her capacity to endure the dangerous circumstance. Elektra's emotional metamorphosis is largely triggered by Will's deeds, and her survival serves as evidence of Will's own path to self-actualization. The story culminates with a scene of furious action and emotional conflict. Will is put to the ultimate test of his bravery as Elektra's life is in jeopardy. This last task is the culmination of all Will has learned throughout the narrative, not just a physical threat. He must finally put his personal development into practice at this point, conquering his remaining uncertainties and anxieties to become the hero Elektra needs. The story does not sugarcoat the psychological and emotional toll that these incidents take, demonstrating that bravery does not come without a price. Will's final sacrifice, whether it be psychological, emotional, or physical, demonstrates how deeply he cared for Elektra and the purpose of saving her life. The narrative concludes with a moving meditation on the intricacies of bravery, selflessness, and how individuals develop and evolve when faced with hardship. Instead than offering a conventional hero's journey, Elektra's life at risk, Plea's hero delves into the subtleties of what it means to step up when things get tough. While Elektra's path is one of emotional awakening and the realization that survival is not just about physical safety but also about having the emotional and psychological strength to face life's most difficult moments, Will's journey from uncertainty to heroism is one that is characterized by internal struggle, vulnerability, and growth. The story serves as a reminder that bravery is about being willing to act, make sacrifices, and develop in the face of insurmountable obstacles rather than about being flawless. It involves stepping up to serve others' needs despite doubts about one's own ability to succeed. The journey itself, the times of uncertainty, the sacrifices made, and the eventual victory over internal and external adversity, is where the true heroism in Elektra's life at risk, Plea's hero is found.